All right, welcome back to the Built on Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Max Hansen, the CEO of Y Scouts, where we find purpose-aligned and performance-proven leaders. Speaking of, today our guest is Jason Plotke. Jason is the president and co-founder of Apex Motor Club, a premier private motorsports club for driving enthusiasts. With a passion for automotive world and a track record of successful ventures, he has helped shape Apex into a top destination for high-performance driving and luxury experiences. Under his leadership, Apex has set a new standard for private racetracks, offering a state-of-the-art facility and an exclusive community for motorsports enthusiasts. Jason, welcome to the Built on Purpose podcast.
Thank you, Max. Glad to be here. This is exciting.
As I stumble through your...
If I can call you every morning can I call you every morning and have you repeat that to me? It sounds awesome.
That's what I stuttered through it a little bit, but...
Yeah, that was good.
We got through it. Yeah, I know that the bios are always great.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump into it. I think, obviously, I've been down to the racetrack. I've got a couple stories that I'll kind of interject with that I think will be fun to reminisce about. But let's start with your journey. Like, what sparked your passion for racing, and how did it lead to creating Apex?
So I've always had I'm kind of a thrill seeker. I grew up in Canada. I grew up in Calgary, Alberta, and I skied my whole life. I ski raced in my early teens. And I literally did all four disciplines, everything from slalom to downhill. And I got a speed bug, and my parents moved down here when I was a junior in high school. And they said, when we moved, they said, well, you can go join the Flagstaff ski team. And so I went up to Snowbowl in 1990. And I can tell you that was not anywhere near what I was used to. So I walked in and walked out, and I'm like, okay, well, that's not, my skiing career is effectively over. And I always had a passion for cars. So I was just a car kid. I the car posters on my wall, and I really got into it. And was fortunate enough, my father got me a sports car when I was when I got out of high school going to college. And I started doing like local track events where you would just go and pay a fee and just it wasn't a race. You just get to use the track. You go out there and do some high performance driving. And I did that for until I had my first kids. So probably 5 or 6 years. And I really got excited and sewn into the hobby. I appreciated it. I had an acumen for it that I didn't expect. So I would go out there and I would perform better than the average late teen or early 20-year-old. And, and that's really where I got bit by the bug, so to speak. I would continue to dabble in those. We had kids. I started my career. I started my life. Things, we didn't have as much access in my 20s as I wanted to, my early 20s. And then when success sort of came to me, I got back into it. And then it really bit me. And I continued to dabble in it, Max, because it wasn't, I never actually raced a car. Like I go to the track and I would drive kind of like what you did when you came to Apex.
Yeah.
But I never actually had been in my first race. And when I was wrapping up another opportunity I had, I was, the local track that we used to use, which is now Wild Horse Pass, used to be called Firebird. And that's where I kind of started. It was under new management, and the new management came to me and someone introduced us, said, well, if you're going to start road racing in Phoenix, you need to meet Jason. And I was like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. And I said, well, listen, you guys have these tracks that you rent to these local race groups like twice a month. How about we do something where we put a club on your track and I'll rent it the other 28 days of the month. And that's really like how this whole thing got started.
So essentially you were asking and did you follow through on that? Did you start using Firebird's racetrack?
So we negotiated a lease. We brought in 50 of probably the biggest motorsport collectors, enthusiasts in Phoenix, multiple billionaires. And we were planning our grand opening, and the tribe called me back and said, we might put a hotel there in 10 years. So we don't want to do the deal. I said, okay, great. give me a 9.5-year deal. We'll do it. And they said no. So one of these billionaires called me because we had taken like a small deposit for a membership and we had returned all the money. And one of the billionaires called me and said, well, why can't we find our own land? And I said, that's a great question. So we literally spent the next year surveying all 4 corners of metropolitan Phoenix, trying to find an ideal site. And there's a lot of things that go into making the site ideal. And really, you could put this in the middle of nowhere, but the idea was I was trying to commoditize motorsports. If you're a golfer, you literally drive past 5 golf courses to get to your own, right? Like it's especially in this town. And if you're into motorsports, it was like planes, trains, and automobiles. So we wanted to find a way to keep it close enough that you wouldn't be, the hassle factor was low because it typically in motorsports, the hassle factor is very high. Your trucks and trailers and race cars and tires and it's a lot. And if you could kind of bring it and localize it, that I felt it would do well. I also recognized that Phoenix had a huge motorsport undercurrent, and I felt it was being underserved. The tracks that we had were like at the time we had an IndyCar race, we had 2 NASCAR races. Previously, we had F1 here. So there's a huge motorsport community that existed, and it was really being underserved by the assets that were available. And Wild Horse Pass had no desire to really do any improvement down there. And I felt like these people that I'd spun up, for lack of a better term, and had enrolled had an appetite to make this thing like, hey, you've got your first 50 members. Can you find 50 more? And it's like, okay. So when it started, it had a very different look and feel. I literally was going to lease an existing track, put a small, building that you could have hospitality in, put some storage unit space there. A few people could store a car in, and that's how it all started. And when we were kicked out of the party, we had to go create it ourselves.
Man, I didn't know that's how it started because, as I said, I've known you for quite a while. And I went down to Jim Ransko took me down to the track.
Yep.
What was the one down kind of towards Tucson?
Indy Motorsport Ranch.
Yeah. It was fun, but you're right. It was a pain in the ass. We had to fly a plane. Fly on the straightaway and get out and have a day,
Yeah, it's interesting. I was a member there, and I remember selling my wife on it and saying, it's just past Tucson. So we would drive down there and we would get through Tucson. It's like 90 miles to go. So it was like really like 3 hours. She's like, this is not Tucson. So I was a member there, and the sales pitch that I got when I joined was, I said, well, why did you put it over here? He said, well, don't you think if I could have put it closer to Phoenix, I would have? And I said, well, I don't know anything. Yeah, that makes sense. And so I bought. Yeah. But he was wrong.
So when you thought of like your original vision for Apex and what it is today, are they similar to what you thought it would be?
Similar. It's certainly expanded. I think we looked, when we started this, there was 5 of these clubs around the country. And they all had a different flavor. And if you talk to their members, members would have pros and cons of what they liked about their own clubs. Very few were members at multiple clubs. And we kind of took all the pros, and tried to combine them into our vision of what Apex should be. And while the principles have stayed true, the product itself has expanded greatly over the past, since the success that we had with it was sort of unexpected. We've exceeded our models in a lot of regards, and so that and I will also tell you, the motorsport world has changed significantly since the pandemic, and the amount of money that manufacturers and now gentlemen drivers place into motorsports. Like, guys were not racing, sports cars, were not driving on a track, and manufacturers are now trying to keep people interested in their brand by racing race on Sunday and sell on Monday kind of thing, because cars are turning into toasters, right? And toasters aren't fun to drive. And at some point, there's going to be a generation that wants to just be in a toaster, but the automakers are going to fight that for as long as they can. So, Max, we may be in the greatest heyday of the cars that are available. I mean, nowadays, a 600 or 700 horsepower car is very common, and that was unheard of even when we started Apex. Cars never had 600 horsepower.
Yeah.
So our vision has evolved with the way the community has evolved. I'll tell you this, like when we built Apex, we thought it was just a bunch of guys coming down with their street cars and turning laps and going home or going to lunch or whatever. We never thought we'd ever hold a single race. Like that was a foreign concept to us, which sounds crazy when you're building a racetrack. And the racing thing turns out to be one of the greatest things. You know, we created a race series in 2019, and it's been one of the best thing we've ever done, because it's attracted people from all over the globe who want to come race with us. People can go drive on lots of tracks, but the racing product is unique to each one. And we've done a really good job of shaping something that fits really well for guys that have lots of experience, guys that have less experience. And so our race series is sort of renowned, at least in the country. And we've got people that are coming from Europe to race, or Canada. So that's something that wasn't ever, to answer your question, the vision has evolved. I think the core principles remain the same. The product offering we'll talk about, like it's expanded significantly since we first penciled it, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. What you mentioned, so you started to take the pros and the cons from all the other racetracks from around the country. Like, how are you guys unique compared to other racetracks, you know, in traditional racing experiences?
Yeah, great question. So like the one in Nevada, they had a driving school there. So that if you talk to the member, the driving school was so lucrative that the members were like pushed out, and they didn't get a lot of track time. The one in New York, they did a ton of corporate events. Like they would rent it out to Porsche or Ferrari or a race team or whatever. And the members didn't get a lot of access. So the members were always complaining about their membership experience at these clubs. And so what we did was designed a facility that was, or a club that was member-centric. It was like the first one that really gave the members, and we guaranteed in our membership agreement, we guarantee a minimum number of days, where the other clubs didn't. Some were like you could have like 8 days a month. It was insane. And we turned away the corporate business or the race team testing because we wanted to guarantee our members had the ultimate amount of time. Like no member's ever going to use that much time in a year. It's just unreasonable, but they had the ability to do it, and they don't get turned away. And that really set us apart from these other clubs that had all these complaints about those things.
Yeah. What is, I kind of know this from hanging out and being down at the track, but who is now that you've been doing this for a while, who is the ideal Apex member? It's probably broadened a little bit, but like how would you describe like the most ideal Apex member that maxes out their membership and, you know, the one that is enjoying the track the most?
You know, that's a cool question, because at the beginning I thought it was like just a guy that had a GT3 or had a Mustang. He just wanted to go to the track. And that's all I cared about. What I love, especially now that we have the garages, is the family. When the wife comes down, the young kids hang out in the garage. They are watching dad race. In some cases, they're watching mom race, which we try to really encourage a female driving participation. So the family, and we've got so many good ones. You know, there's some household name guys that do such cool shit that it's hard to not have it's hard to not fall over the fact that they're down there. It's sort of a little bit of breathing some rare air. We certainly have those opportunities, and those are cool experiences, but holistically, I want more families. We're going to build a clubhouse, and we want to build the clubhouse so that the family comes down and enjoys the track as much as whoever the driver may be.
Yeah, and my experience in going down there is like I'm not nearly as good of a driver as I thought I would be. Like, you know what I mean? And you're a very good driver, I will say. I've been in the car, and you can tell when somebody's handling themselves well on the track. You can tell. But I do think it's cool that you're kind of catering towards people with different skill levels, because it is a huge thrill. I know personally, driving on the track, the one thing that I know is, like, when I'm stressed out, you can't think about anything else. It's just driving.
Yes, I know that better than anybody.
Yeah. So even though I kind of did suck, like you get into the zone and you get to focus on like just driving. It's just you and the track.
I don't think you sucked. I use a golf analogy a lot. You can get from tee to green, no problem. And you might hit it in the rough a little bit, but listen, you get from tee to green. There's lots of people that can't. I will also tell you that at Apex, 50% of our members are literally green to the hobby. So you're in good company, whether you recognize it or not. Half the people have come into some success in life. The cars are building are exciting, and this is something that is unexpected. So while it's easy to grow up around a golf course or skiing or snowboarding and stuff like that, this is a little more difficult. We're trying to change that. But you were in good company. So you should not have been so hard on yourself, because I think you did quite well.
No, thank you. I certainly got my money's worth out of my tires when I would go there. I will tell you that.
Yeah.
I made sure. I remember I got sent home by Jerry one day. And
I remember that. I was there.
Time to go home. You're cording your front tires, and they're like brand new on the outside, and you're cording them on the inside. It's time to go home, which is commendable. Speaking of like driving to people's limits, like what stories do you have about people pushing beyond their limits down to the track?
Well, it's funny. Not everybody, just like golf, not everybody gets a golf pro. Not everybody gets a driving coach. And when some people buy race cars, because the progression usually is street car to race car for some people. And a race car, instinctively, you're to push it as hard as you possibly push it. And there's been instances where I will say that by and large, there's been no serious incidents. Safety is paramount, but like there's a lot of dirt out there, and people have we equate it to the sand trap, right? There's a lot of people end up in the bunker at Apex, and you'll go out nice and clean, and you'll come in needing a shower and a leaf blower and a vacuum, but there's no. I actually think it's good when I see people go off, because it means they are pushing the limit, and you shouldn't, it's a hobby that you shouldn't be complacent with. So if you get a little dirty once in a while, it's okay, because you're finding out where your skill, where the abilities of your car are, where the abilities of your skill set is. And if that constitutes driver improvement or driver coaching, I'm a big fan of people finding their limits.
Yeah. Well, I remember my favorite story about you is when the track was first opening, and we can tell this now. I mean,
we can tell this now.
Yeah. And you had just hired Jerry, and you're like, hey, listen, I want you to, you're in charge, you're going to manage, and he's the perfect guy for that job. And we went down there, and you're going to show me the track, and we had our cars, and we start fucking out there, and Jerry comes walking out, and he goes, guys, I just want to let you know, nobody's taking a car on the track today, because there's still a little rebar in one of the corners. And you and I, like, these are just two guys, you know what I mean? There's nobody there, and we're like, we're going on the track.
Thank God for Jerry. Jerry's kept us. If I was in charge of safety, Max, as you can tell, I wasn't doing a very good job of it. I think that last question would have a very different answer.
But
Jerry keeps us safe. Jerry keeps us safe.
He does keep us safe. He kept us safe that day, but
he's kept us safe that day and almost every day since. So yeah, thank you, Jerry. He's a good find.
Totally. But I love the fact that at the point that it came down to is this guy's on a track and like,
We're excited. I mean, you got a brand new racetrack. Let's go have some fun. But
yeah,
thank God Daddy was there, because I think Max, we probably would have ended up in the rebar.
Yeah. We still got on the track, but yes, he put the line and said, all right, fine, but you're not going to do anything.
You're not hauling ass right here.
Exactly. No. So I knowing you personally, I kind of know, some of the challenges that you had in getting that track open and whether it was water rights and whatever, but what were the biggest challenges in launching and growing Apex?
Two things. One is that it was ambitious. It's ambitious for anybody. I mean, these concepts had existed in other markets, but I had no track record even as a developer, right? My background was automotive, but not in development, and attracting people that would place confidence in our ability to make it what it was very difficult, even with the relationships that I had. And I look back at those days, and they were challenging. And I remember sitting in front. I remember sitting like in probably one of the a very, very, very wealthy person's boardroom, like just me sitting there, almost like Shark Tank, and trying to pitch this thing that was going to be this and that and all these other things, and it was so intimidating. I also, we were when we announced ourselves there, we were sued by a competitor. And the competitor was planning to build his own product, and he was doing everything to stop us litigiously. So he sued the city for approving our zoning, which we had to defend. They sued my wife, and I sued the company. So for a year we were in litigation, and we couldn't get out of because the zoning was being challenged. We couldn't get the product out of the ground until we had prevailed or not prevailed on these lawsuits. And thankfully we did, but it was a very stressful time. The person that sued us was extremely litigious, still hates me to this day. My name probably gives him indigestion. But that was a tough time, right? Like we saw the opportunity was so good because of the market that existed here, and we found a location that I think checked almost all the boxes that we wanted to check, and yet we couldn't get out of the courtroom. And I had never participated in a lawsuit before, so I had no idea what to expect. And this guy was literally like going to spend $1 million to stop us, and hired former Attorney General of Arizona to challenge us in our zoning and sue us. And that was intimidating. And in a time when I'm trying to attract investment and build confidence and sell a vision, right? Those were some tough times.
Yeah, which is crazy, because knowing where the track is in Maricopa, there's no there couldn't be a better place to put that track. It's just outside the city limits. It's wide open. There's really nothing built there. So man, that was probably crazy to go through. Did I just read you guys just open up, extend the track like you've always planned to? Did you just open that up, or was that a little while ago?
We just opened it last week. So we always designed the facility to have 2 tracks. And the first track was always designed to be sort of a club track, meaning a bunch of compulsories. Like it would have a long straight, and it would have a technical section, and have a fast sweeping turn. It's a golf course that has all, it's got the par 3, par 4, par 5. It's got a water hole. It's got bunkers. It's got everything that kind of completes the experience. And when I mentioned this to you, it was never really designed to be raced, although we do race it, and we race as well. We recognized that the second track was going to have a completely different personality, and the personality was that it was going to be a racing circuit. And very few clubs build a racing circuit. They have the same philosophy that we had when we started, but we learned a lot in the last 5 years. And it was an important edition, and we just opened it, and it's freaking amazing. It's challenging, fun, and fast, and it can be raced well, and it's something we've never been able to offer. So it just opens more doors for us. And we're, the same people that paved Miami Formula One track. And when they got done paving it, they said, I think this is actually smoother. And we're like, wow, this is awesome. Cost a lot, but it's awesome. So now we have 2 tracks, which gives us also flexibility to do now corporate events or rent it to Ferrari and Porsche and McLaren. And now we can still deliver and the promise to the members of the commitment that we made of those minimum number of days, and now offer something or bring that revenue stream or those revenue streams. And not only that, they're cool to watch. We're going to do some sports car race series testing. We hope to get IndyCar down there, and like those types of things are going to just add to the member experience as well.
Yeah. And so in the Radical, I know that's the series that you race in, is one of the series out there. So how did the partnership of the Radicals start? I mean, it kind of felt like to me as a, kind of somebody that was around the track and around you, like they came out and there was a few, and then next thing you know, they were supplying Radicals for a lot of people that were, join that race series. But like, how did it come out of the ground? And I don't know the whole story.
The Radical story is really cool in itself. Like I said, we never expected to have race cars. So they approached us 6 months after we opened and said, would you like to be a dealer for Radical? I kind of knew what it was. And they brought one down, did a demo day with me and a couple people. And I was like, oh, this is cool. At the time I had a GT3 and I had gotten this Radical, and I'm like, oh my God, like it makes the GT3 feel fat and heavy. And, we sold a few cars. I think we became a dealer September of 2019. We had opened in April of 2019. And by the end of the year, I think we had sold 4 or 5 cars. And so we decided to make this race series. Like these things, like it's like adult go-karting. We have to put them next to each other. So that's kind of how the race series evolved, is the fact that the Radical was so ideal to race. And 2020, we were Radical Dealer of the Year worldwide. So in literally 18 months, we'd become the top dealer in the world. And there had been dealers that have been selling them for a decade or longer. We were runner-up in 21, runner-up in 22, runner-up in 23. And we created the fastest growing Radical population in the world. So we went from 0 to 110 cars in 5 years, which is crazy.
Describe for the people that don't know, describe what a Radical open.
Yeah. So Radical is people would consider it a prototype racing class car. It's not open wheel, it's closed wheel, but open cockpit. It only weighs 1,300 pounds. It uses a built motorcycle engine. Makes about 200 horsepower. It looks the part. It's got a big wing on the back. It's a full aero car, full aerodynamics, so you can use aero on turns, on high-speed turns and such, which not a lot of cars offer. It's the only production race car in the world. It's built in Peterborough, England, and the company's been around since 2004, and they are incredible. They sell these things in almost every continent. Almost every track has them. The cost of ownership is lower compared to other race cars and even other sports cars. Like the GT3, Max, the tires are $2,500 to $3,000 every time you need to put them on. Yeah. And they don't last all that long because the car is heavier. Whereas the Radical, you get 20 to 30 track sessions out of them. The tires cost $1,600. So the operating cost is very attractive, and the performance. I mean, if a Radical is 7, if we're going to use the GT3 benchmark, it's like 6 or 7 seconds a lap faster than a GT3, which everybody knows what a GT3 is. It's the ultimate track street car that you can buy. So that in itself, the performance equation the performance proposition is very high for the cost of ownership, a cost of entry. and the product sort of sells itself. I think that's why we have so many of them. We created the largest single class, because Radical has a few different models, the largest single class race field in the world. So we average about 20 cars, and there's no series anywhere in the world that fields 20 of those SR3s in that way. So we're pretty proud of it. It's been a great partnership. Radical has been terrific for us. The members love them. It's brought members to Apex because guys want to race in that series, or they want to drive the Radical on that track. The new track in the Radical, oh my God, because we had the chance, because now we know what we know and we have product that we can design around. We've designed it for a Radical, and it's just Radical all the way up to a factory GT3 race car, LMP2, LMP3. I'm probably talking Chinese to a lot of people, but these are all like what you see on TV. The cars you see, the sports cars you see on TV, the prototype, Le Mans looking cars that you see. And the Radical still holds its own, and with a lot of those cars, it's really, really remarkable. And I enjoy racing it. Like you said, once I started driving it, I never brought my GT3 back.
Yeah, I drove, you let me drive yours one time. I spun it out in like the third corner because, man, you're so surprised on how hard you can corner those things that I took it to the limit and finally spun it out. Never touched never went into the trap. I stayed on the concrete, just for the road.
You didn't put it in the sand?
I put it in the sand, but I've been in the sand before, trust me.
I know, it's fine. I have too. Hey, 3 weeks ago, I put it in the sand like 5 times in one day, pushing the limit. So you haven't done that.
Okay.
And I've been driving this thing for 6 years.
Were the conditions different, or what was
No, I was just trying new things, a new technique for a certain turn, and it was in my head, it wasn't what I was used to, and so I would exit the corner and the car would understeer, meaning it would push, and it would always push into the dirt. And so I'd had these like full sends, like, looked like the space shuttle landing in the middle of the Mojave Desert. I got out of the car and I was like shoveling dirt off myself. It was so I kept trying and eventually I was able to make that technique work, but it definitely took some time. So don't feel bad about going in the dirt.
I will not.
I think you did great, and you got to experience the Radical. You're sitting low to the ground, the open air. There's a lot of sensations and senses that are affected, so it makes that experience a little more impactful, in my opinion.
Yeah, I could barely reach the pedals on yours. I had to put
sorry.
my back.
We are not the same height. I do know that.
Yeah, so they would customize a little bit, maybe move the pedals towards probably. Yeah. Talk about you. So do you do? I remember this again. I hadn't been there for a little while, but you were doing stuff for teens, and I think it's always important for anybody that's driving to understand like what a car does when you oversteer or understeer, or get on the gas and break the tires. What talk about like the program you've had in the past, or you still have for teens?
Yeah, we still have. We started it. During COVID, actually, when kids were out of school, and when they take driver's ed, they teach you where to stop at a stop sign, how when to put the brake on when you're coming to a light, how to change lanes. They don't teach you, to your point, they don't teach you any evasive maneuvers, car control, how a car performs under certain extreme conditions. And so we designed this teen school to offer that ability, and it's been very well regarded. The teens walk away with an experience that they probably will never get anywhere else, other than maybe another performance teen driving school. But they do it with each other. They do it with 4 kids in the car. And sometimes there's not even an instructor. We teach them how to drive. If you went off the road, how to get the car safely back on the road, because your intuition is different than what you should be doing. We teach them. We actually have them accelerate to as hard as they can to 60 miles an hour and slam the brakes and see how long it takes them to stop from 60 miles an hour. We have them do slalom. and see how a car, and we put them in, we're not always putting them in sports cars. In fact, sometimes we put them in 4-door sedan rental cars, because that's typically what they're going to drive when they get into their, when they get their license. They're not driving an M5 to high school. I mean, some are, but most aren't. And yeah. So we give them the ability to learn how those cars actually perform, and those skills can become in very handy. We even, at the end of the session, we teach them how to jump start a car. We teach them how to change a flat tire. We show them where the battery is in the car. So it's a really thorough opportunity for the teens that they don't get that opportunity. And there's now schools that call us and say, "Hey, we've heard about your teen school. Can we have our own day?" I think we're even doing one for YPO.
Yeah. I think you did what for the wives, YPO wives.
YPO wives. We're doing YPO wives and YPO teens.
Yeah.
And it's cool. I think if you can start, especially driving is the scariest thing for a parent to let their child embark on, right? There's lots of things that you want to protect your child from. Driving is one of them. So if you can make them much more accomplished in a short period, and the other thing, it's like 3 or 4 hours, and they learn all these things in 3 or 4 hours. We're going to run them through quickly. It's not a full week. Driver's ed takes 3 weeks to go through. So this is fast and fun and unique. And
yeah. It kind of made me think maybe our kids are soft, but maybe I'm just like an older, naive parent. Maybe our kids rip around in our cars and like they get all crazy up the streets with our cars, and they learn how. Because in my mind, I'm like, I kind of figured all this out by like driving cars.
Yeah, trial by fire.
Yeah, I kind of did that. But maybe I was thinking about like our kids are so soft, but maybe they do that. They just don't tell us. I don't know.
Well, and nowadays they watch these kids on Instagram driving supercars, and they think like, "Oh, I can do that, right? Like I'm going to hop in your dad's sports car that goes 205 miles an hour, and I can do that because I watched it on Instagram." And it's not. I mean, it's just, especially the cars that are out. We're like, when you and I were doing this, cars that like, it was rare to even have 250 horsepower.
Yeah.
So it's the cars that these kids get access to, it's a real responsibility. So I'm glad we can try and help make better drivers out there. It's a good use of a racetrack.
Yeah, it is. It is. And speaking of just in general, like prior to getting into the racetrack, you were like a car enthusiast. And so you know more than most about cars. I was kind of a guy that I get cars and I just drive them all. You were kind of more of a collector, and you kind of knew the nuances. But where do you see the future of motorsports heading, like with the rise of electric vehicles and autonomous tech? Like what do you see happening?
I think it goes 2 directions. I still think, to my earlier comment, that there's going to be a part of the population that likes the Teslas, and more of I call them an appliance. It's Tesla's more like an appliance than it is a car. Even though the Tesla Plaid is an amazing performance car, it doesn't give you the same driving experience that a Ferrari or a Porsche or a Lamborghini gives you. And so there's gonna, and I sincerely believe that autonomous cars are around the corner. Obviously, with Waymos in our market, you can see how they're successful. They're coming. Tesla's close to that, and other automakers, and the technology is going to just advance and evolve at a much more rapid pace now with AI and such, and the chips that they're able to build. And then that's one direction. And then there's the other direction, that is automakers need to build you a product that keeps you in their brand, that excites you and makes you want to get up in the morning and get in your car and drive, and not buy the toaster. And you look how Formula One has grown in the last 5 years. I mean, we went from basically 0 races in the United States to now 3, and they're entertaining 4. The knowledge of Formula One, Cadillac is going into Formula One, Ford is going into Formula One. And they're all going into the Le Mans series. So the motorsport community is growing globally, and it's really growing in the US, because before it was NASCAR and IndyCar and Formula One was never, there wasn't very many fans. All the races were overseas, and there just wasn't a big following. And now that's completely changed. And I think Formula One has inspired people to buy a sports car. And so I think while I was worried, there was a time is the 2020 GT3 the last GT3 we're ever going to have? And it's not. Now you hear that the manufacturers are retracting from electrification and reinvesting in internal combustion. And part of the reason is the experience that drivers get. I happen to be, I'd had a few Porsches, and I happen to be selected to be on their, it's like shaping the future of Porsche. And I get these questionnaires, and I see where they're asking those questions. Would you buy an electric car over an internal combustion? What prevents you from buying an electric car? What would make you buy an electric car? And they're really trying to figure it out. But what they do not stop is investing in motorsports and building cars that you want to get out of bed and hop in. And I know how you are. And I know that that's exciting to you, and it's going to remain that way for a while.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're all going to be, and here's the thing. Electric cars don't really work well on the track yet. No one's built one. The Taycan's probably the closest thing, and it's not great. So there's nothing that electrifies to go out there and make you go to a racetrack. So you're still buying an internal combustion car.
Yeah.
For that purpose.
Yeah. I feel like I felt like that was happening for a while. I was going to have to run out and rush and buy some manual gas combustion cars and just hang on to them. But I don't think we're there. I think people realize that manufacturers.
Yeah, not there.
It's good to hear. You see people getting into tracking their cars these days, like more, or is there a trend more to like buy like a track car versus like their car, their everyday, not every day, but the one they kind of keep in their garage and keep shined up? You see a lot of people still like more people tracking those, or more people tracking like track cars?
Your street car gets you to the track and to a club. But what you come to find out is that as great as a GT3 is, you can buy something that's less expensive, that if you put in the dirt, it doesn't ruin your day. Its operating costs are much less. Not everybody. There's plenty of people, and I would say, listen, out of the 300 members we have, more than half still drive a street car down there, and they enjoy it and love it, and it's great. And they're every flavor you can imagine. Some of them over $1 million, new supercars, hypercars, and guys down to Mustangs and Miatas. And it's just, I think the answer to that question is what they want to get out of their motorsports journey. If they enjoy driving down there in their car, and there's many that do. They tell me this, like, I like the fact that I can just drive to the track, put my car on the track, and drive home. Like, I don't have to deal with anything else. And that's half our members. And that's, I think that remains. And like I was just saying, the product that comes out of these manufacturers these days, even on a Mustang, is incredible. And they're great track cars. Mustangs used to be terrible track cars. Now they're incredible track cars, and they make a track version that that doesn't cost that much. And so those types of cars are going to continue to come out of all the manufacturers, and people are going to continue to track them. If they want to elevate their motorsports experience and take it to a different level, then obviously they would look at a race car or track specific car. But probably the most popular car ever out of race cars, even radicals, that you'll see down any given day is a GT3 or a GT3 RS. And that's just a testament to how good that product is.
Yeah.
So
those are amazing cars the most car for the money. I've always, when I first went to the track and I got taken on a hot, lap, this was years ago. I think it was at Firebird actually. I was so surprised on like how durable the cars were. That was my first thing is like, holy shit, this car, I can't believe what it's capable of doing. I think about a Camaro.
And that was a while ago.
Yeah. And that was
Yeah. And they weren't really building track-oriented product back then because the motorsport thing was not as popular as it is. And now you look at it, and almost every manufacturer builds some track-oriented car that you can, literally beat the shit out of, and it just will drive your ass home.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of forgot about that. I smoked the tires on my car and they were cording, and then I remembered I had to drive home after that. I made it, but it's like probably lucky that I did. There was like cord coming out of all 4 tires. Hey, speaking of autonomous cars, how is it? I've never like asked. There's got to be a way. How is it that when you order a Waymo versus like a car like an Uber, that Waymo's always clean and smells good, and like you order an Uber and there's somebody in there that could clean it, but it always smells worse and it's not clean? I mean, why is that?
I know, it's very weird. My wife prefers Waymo because she doesn't have to wonder what the driver is going to be like. He's like, do we have to listen to his music? Do we have to, what did he have for lunch today? Right? I don't know why they're always clean. They let you listen to your own music. And it's, how many Ubers have you got in, and it's like, oh my God, this guy needs to find a vacuum or a car wash. It's
I know.
it's a crapshoot.
I'm convinced that somebody at the Central Station, which I've been to because I toured Waymo years ago, keeps an eye on the cars, and then there's like a couple shops throughout the valley, and they pull up and they get cleaned. It has to be, because I've never gotten in a dirty Waymo.
I actually want to see where all these things like go at night, right? Like, it's a mystery to me. Is there like this massive parking lot and they're all sleeping at night and charging? And it's funny, on my street or around the corner from my house, there's like, it's happened probably 10 times. There'll be a Waymo that's parked there overnight, and the lights are off, but the little things are still spinning. There's a little red light on the back, and it sits there all night, and it sits in the exact same spot, like probably to the foot. And I've seen this happen in a couple places, and I'm curious how, is it lost? Is it out of charge? Like, I never see anyone come get it, and it'll sit there for 8 hours, if not longer.
Maybe it went to the bar that night and it's sleeper mode. Had a couple of cocktails and it's sleeping it off. No, I have been to the Central Station in Chandler.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, like, it's crazy there. There's people. I mean, it's basically like it's almost like security guard stations where they're watching all the screens, because they're watching like all those cars. When you get in those cars,
yes,
if there's anything that alerts them, like there's somebody like that's watching it. And I don't know how many cars they watch at one time, but it was years ago and I saw. But it's in Chandler, and it's pretty interesting. Speaking of cars, just because I kind of want to dig in a little bit more. What car in your collection, or one that you've driven, gives you the most joy on the track? Like, out of the collection, not the Radical, but like,
you're using collection very loosely, please.
Yeah, very clear.
I usually only have 1 or 2 at a time, but I recently was able to purchase the newest version of the GT3 RS, which by all accounts is the best street car on a track. The car is a technological marvel. It has DRS, which is what F1 cars have. So it has the ability to reduce its wing capacity. So it trims it out on straightaways and then puts a bunch of aero in on a turn. It's literally the wings moving all over the place, and the computers are doing amazing things. You can adjust everything from the torque curve on the steering wheel, like way more adjustments than probably anybody could ever do, other than maybe a Porsche factory driver. But the car is so good. I was running out there with it, and there was a Porsche. So this is a Porsche 992 GT3 RS street car, and I'm on street tires. And there's a Porsche 992 911 GT3 Cup car, which is the race car version of the 911. and it runs on a slick tire. And I was following around the track, and literally, except for the real technical sections where a slick tire can give you advantage, the street car was faster. And it was and I'm on street tires, which that's like a 2-second difference in just, and so I'm like, this is unbelievable that Porsche or a manufacturer can build a product like this that's this good on a racetrack. It's literally as good as their race car and maybe better, which because of the drag reduction system, the DRS. And it was pulling it on the straightaway because it didn't have any aero drag, whereas the race car has, a fixed wing. And it was taking the turns with street tires as fast, the high speed turns as fast. So that car to me, especially as someone that co-founded a racetrack, is the ultimate car. And it doesn't cost $1 million either. I'm not sure $1 million car. I think you'd have to spend $3 million, $2 million, $3 million to have a car that performs that well.
Wow. That's
and it's like it's a 6-cylinder with no turbos. Like everything's turbocharged these days. But it redlines at 9,500, and that sends how it is. That sensation that it provides is unmatched on any product. We've had a number of manufacturers down there, and I won't name names, but even they know that it's special, and no one else can build that. Nobody will or can build what Porsche has built. So hats off to them, and that's why you see so many of them. They're incredible car.
Cool. The whole 911 shape, that's been what it is for so long. And the day they finish a car, they're on to making it better the next year, and they always figure out a way to do it.
You and I had practically the same car, and when we had those cars, I was like, there's a new one coming. I'm like, how can you make this better? And yet they did, and you get in it, and it's not even, doesn't have much more power. They just made it better.
I think there is some, you might know this story, but I think there is something with at Porsche when they release a car, they're
already working on the next one. Yep.
Yeah, they just let's make the next one better. Great, that one's done. Let's move on. I think that's pretty amazing. So just in general, I've got a few more questions, and then we'll kind of start wrapping up. But I'm not in a rush here. I'm just telling you, as a entrepreneur and as a leader, I think everybody out there, what an admirable thing to do. You took a big chance. You co-founded Track. I mean, there is so many complications in it that, we didn't get into. But what are the biggest lessons that you've learned in building Apex, and specifically for the kind of customer that you're dealing with, which is pretty luxury, some people that are pretty particular in the way they like things? What have you learned most as an entrepreneur?
That's a great question. I think what surprised us the most, and we talked about this before, what makes Apex different, because we were member-centric. We attracted a community of people from all walks. There's some are household names, and others you would never know. And what we found is that community was as powerful as the product that we were either selling or sharing. And to your point, we're in the experience industry, right? We're selling fantasy camp, motorsport fantasy camp, and we compete with a lot of things for people that have the kind of discretionary income to do this hobby. We compete with ski trips to Aspen or the Alps, and sailing in the Bahamas, and yacht trips to in the Med, and Pebble Beach. We compete with all that stuff, and so what we've found is by the community that we create, and if you surveyed a lot of our members, they would tell you that their favorite thing about Apex is the community. So that's one component. I think the community, from an entrepreneurial perspective, experience comes right after you need it. And we didn't have any experience when we did this, other than my background and my partner's background in the limited dabbling we did with track days and such. We were smart enough to recognize that we recognized that we didn't know what we didn't know. And we were not afraid to bring people in that could help us and augment the product, the experience. I think we underestimated the power of family. We underestimated the power of hospitality. If we had done it again, we would have built the clubhouse with the first track. We thought, hey, if you build a track, that's all that matters. Guys will drive down. It doesn't matter. They don't care. But they care. We care because we can't get their family down there. And we want everybody to participate and grow the hobby, within everybody's family, or if that's possible. And so from an entrepreneurial aspect, literally, it's tough to get experience before it's required. And I would just, my lessons learned is do as much research as possible, learn your market, participate as much as you can in similar experiences so that you can craft your product as best as possible. It's been a journey. It's the lowest of lows and it's had the highest of highs. And I wouldn't not do it again for any reason. I love it. I love the people. I've created some of the best relationships in my life as a result of it. And that's the community. And I have people that I never expected that I would have as friends. And you're one of them. I met you through motorsports, right? And cars. And so it's to me, it's an honor and a privilege to be able to share my time with great people all around. That means.
You can kind of compare it to like a golf course, but like I've had a lot more shitty days at a golf course than I had.
No, it's same here.
I mean,
Yes.
how many people?
Look how many people golf and complain about it, and yet there's 400, 300 or 400 golf courses in Phoenix. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, not many people have a bad. I mean, you'd have to have like a bad. The other thing when it comes to hospitality, to give you guys some credit, I remember when it was just the track, like you guys would go out of your way to bring in lunch for whoever was there. And like, it was all about like, so, I think you guys were like ahead of it thinking like, hey, to keep these people down here and keep them happy, like, let's like go out of our way to keep them fed and do what we can, even though we don't have a facility and clubhouse. So now that you've been around a lot of drivers and folks, is there, if you could have one legendary driver, past or present, come out and do laps at Apex, who would it be and why?
Ayrton Senna. I think the guy was the best the world has ever seen. He died in a horrific crash, way too young. I've watched every documentary about him. He had an ability to manage a car that was probably unmanageable. The Formula One cars back then were like literally death traps. I think they were trying to kill you, maybe. And yet he was so successful. He comes from good roots. I mean, his name it's got to be the most famous driver. So it's Ayrton for sure, without a doubt.
And then for just as we kind of close out, for anybody that's listening, because I think starting a racetrack is like, I think one of the coolest businesses you could probably start. But if anybody's listening and dreams of owning a racetrack and getting into motorsports at a high level, what advice would you give them?
Of building a racetrack or joining one?
Building one, like getting in and starting a racetrack.
What's funny, when we started this, there was 5 in the United States. Now there's 5 in Florida. The markets, it's tough. You really have to, you're threading a needle, both in being able to find a place to put it that's cost effective and B, having a population that can support it. We've looked at other markets. I've entertained ideas of doing one in another state. We've entertained ideas of doing one in Europe. And I don't know where that'll go. But for somebody looking to do it, you just understand the market and your member, and it's not easy. It's not easy.
What's your guys' website? Like, where do people find you? People that want to
Find us at apexmotorclub.com. On Instagram, it's Apex Motor Club AZ. We have a really great Instagram presence, and we have great content that's professionally produced every week. So if you're interested to learn more about it, I would recommend Instagram. The website's got all the information, how to find us. If you want to come down and try it, call my cell phone. It's you're going to have the most fun you've had, and it's very unexpected. And I recommend anyone that has even an inkling of what this might be in their life to look me up, and I would be happy to show you a great time. And the product sort of speaks for itself. And you come down, I tell people, you either want it in your life or you don't. And if and you'll know right away. It's not a timeshare sales process where someone's calling you for the next 6 months trying to get you to come down and, do this. So
yeah, it kind of sells itself. What have I not asked that I should have asked, just about like the journey that you've had and about cars and the industry? Like, what's anything that is there a question that I should have asked that I didn't?
I had one too. I think that the market in motorsports is evolving in such a cool way that it makes this product will improve, not necessarily Apex, just the experience, I should say, will improve because of all the energy and focus that's gone into motorsports. And that will help. It's just like, it's like out of our control that your experience is going to just improve organically because of the product that's coming or whatever. And I think that's sort of a casualty of success that nobody saw coming. And I think that part is really important. And most people don't think that way, that technology is evolving, and it doesn't really, if you're a golfer, after you get PXGs, how do you improve your golf game, right? It's like there's no new thing coming, but with motorsports, there's always a new car coming, there's always a new product, there's going to be a new tire, and that just helps. There'll be new race cars to buy, and I just think that's a really cool part of the hobby that people don't really think about.
Nice. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. I have to say, selfishly, I was looking forward to having it just to catch up with you. But you've been listening to the Built on Purpose podcast, brought to you by Y Scouts. You can listen to our past and future podcasts at yscouts.com.